Welcome to the Real Estate podcast on Unconditional, brought to you by realestate.co.nz. This regular program puts together insight and information on the property market, what's going on with the residential market in New Zealand, and also at times a focus on real estate marketing. And today I'm joined by Joel Burslem, who has come to join us for a conference we're holding in Auckland this week. So welcome, Joel. Thanks for coming to New Zealand first and foremost.
No, thanks, Alistair. Thanks for having me.
Good. It's going to be a great conference. Looking forward to that. You've just literally stepped off the plane, so thanks for jumping in here and joining us.
No problem.
I thought this would be a good opportunity to pick your brains on blogging. Mm-hmm. You've had quite a history, I know, and really kind of got to know you and understood your kind of position when you founded the Future Real Estate Marketing blog. Mm-hmm. You've gone on now to work for 1000 Watt Consulting and write their blog.
Yep.
But I guess I'm interested to explore the aspects of blogging from a real estate agent's point of view, thinking of their role of using it as a communication channel to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So let's get it started. Tell us some of your thoughts for an agent. What are the things you think are really important from a blogging perspective?
Well, I think it's important to define the word blog. And I think it can be intimidating to a lot of people who feel that it's sort of this new medium, social media, and that it's something that they're afraid of. But I think, at the end of the day, the blog is really just a tool, and it's a publishing tool. It's a mechanism to get content on the web very easily. In years past, if you had a website you needed to maintain, you needed to know how to code HTML, you needed to have a webmaster, someone to get that content up.
It's kind of a heck of a lot easier now.
Yeah, so what a blog does, and there's numerous different platforms, WordPress being probably the most popular and well-known, but there are others out there. What it does at its core is really just allow you to publish content to the web. So I think trying to demystify the sort of stigma of what a blog is, I think is probably the first and foremost thing to think about, because it doesn't need to be a scary thing.
It's interesting because I think actually it's timely that the word was almost retired, because to be honest, I think nowadays a blog and a website are the same thing.
Absolutely.
It's merely a means by which you can manage and produce content on the web in, as you say, an incredibly simple way that you don't need the expensive coders and the tech people you used to. You can put content straight up there and it's visible and found, which I think is a great aspect that we as an industry can grab hold of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the John Battelle, who's sort of a leading thinker in the online search space, made a comment a few years back that every company now is a media company. And I think that extends down to even the individual level now with social media, is that you need to start thinking of yourself as a media company. And by that I mean learn from what the mainstream media has done in the past, and use that as a way to get your message up on the web. And so it's simple things like coming up with a content strategy, finding a topic or a niche to write about or to cover, thinking through an editorial schedule and making sure that you're continually adding content to your site. And then at the end of the day, which is probably the hardest part of it all, but it's the promotion. It's finding an audience, building a community around that content.
Yeah.
These are all things that mainstream media, traditional media has done for years and years. But I think, if you, as an individual, as a small business owner, as a real estate practitioner, if you can take some of those concepts from media, apply it to your own website, I think that's probably the foundation that you need to start with there.
Yeah, it's interesting because pick up on those two aspects, the niche and the schedule, because those are the two that I always hear. And I always say to this industry that I think they're very fortunate because they have a richness of content that has an audience. If you were trying to run a plumbing business, it's not that interesting to write about a blog about plumbing, but real estate people live in communities, and communities have stories, and they are stories that go beyond buying and selling houses. They're about schools, they're about communities, they're about councils, they're about what goes on, parks, people are improving systems, their road improvements, all these kind of things. So I always feel, real estate people have a great opportunity to write about great houses, but they've got an even better opportunity to be a centre for their community. And that's a niche that is just gold, because to be centric in that local community is powerful. But let's pick on the second one, which is the process of writing, that frequency. That's always the difficult one, because we've hosted a large number of blogs, probably over 200 blogs have started on our website,
Yeah.
and probably half of them disappeared because people start with great gusto and then they disappear.
Yeah.
Have you seen any good kind of examples or models or advice in that area?
A blogger in the United States, Teresa Boardman,
Yeah.
Who sort of coined this, and that is, as real estate agents, you're faced with every day questions from your clients about the market, about the homes that are out there. So you're answering questions consistently. So there's your mine of content. So if every time you get that question, you answer it to the client, and you go home and write a post that basically encapsulates that answer, that's a piece of content that you can put on the web and share with a greater and larger audience. So I think, to your point, I mean, there is sort of an endless vein of information and questions and concerns that people have about the property market that you can essentially mine for story ideas, for posts.
It's interesting because I've heard the same story, but I never knew who to credit. So I'll credit Teresa with it as well from that point of view. But it is, I heard that same thing, and it because there is that dry spell, as I'm sure there are. I never worked in newspaper, but I'm sure editors and journalists had that kind of dry spell. How the heck do you get a new story? But as you say, I can't think of a real estate person who wouldn't want to engage in a conversation every day of their lives, and those conversations always prompted by questions, and those questions are real.
Yep.
So capture that, put it up there. Somebody, one person was interested. There's going to be other people, and that's vital because the power of the web is it's on the web, it's searchable, it's indexable, and therefore it's going to be found when somebody searches that topic.
Yeah, I think just to pick up on a couple things there, I think the sort of primary thing that you should be thinking about when creating content for the web is what kind of question can I answer? If you think about people's behavior on the web, it's generally search-driven. They're looking for answers. Think about the questions that people have and then write the answers. The second part of it, which is sort of on the consistency and scheduling part of the equation, just as a tip that I can share, when I started my first blog, The Future of Real Estate Marketing, one of the things that I did for myself early on was set myself a schedule and made a commitment to myself that I was going to write 3 posts a week, 3 to 4 posts a week. And I had it set up so that Monday would be a news piece, Wednesday would be a tip, and Friday might be something just kind of generally interesting about the web. So I had a structure that I developed. Now quickly, as I got going and it became more of a passion and I found a greater audience, that schedule fell aside and there was more news and stuff to report on. But very early on, that was really critical, I think, for me, learning how to write for this new platform. But also, what it does is it sets up a very clear expectation on the behalf of the readers that they know that they can go to your blog and that Tuesday is going to be a tip and Wednesday is going to be a piece of market information. So setting yourself these defined sort of parameters for your blogging, I think, is really critical in having a good content strategy.
It's good advice, actually. I must admit, having blogged for 2.5 years, I've never done that. The one thing I always think about is setting up alerts to capture news stories of insights and information. And Google Alerts are just goldmine from that point of view. So always looking in the mornings to see what's the interesting articles, where's a news story, and how could that be put into perspective. And interestingly, from the point of view of thinking about local agents, I tend to think about what happens internationally and how that relates to New Zealand, and agents can do the same. What's the national story, how to apply to local? Because it is getting back to that heart, it's niche, it's local from that point of view. So I think those are great piece of advice. So,
and I think it's, the buzzword that gets kicked around is even more than local, it's hyper-local. So you can get down even to a neighborhood level. It doesn't necessarily even have to be about Auckland real estate, which is probably a pretty generic
it's
term.
a big market, so you get down into the individual
but
suburbs.
But you get to a particular suburb or even neighborhood level, there's probably plenty of stuff that you can write about there.
Brilliant. Look, Joel, thank you very much indeed for giving us your time. Great to see you here, and look forward to the conference. Thanks.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.